everybody. This is Tommy Newberry. Welcome to another episode of Achieving Optimal. Today, in a very relevant, timely session, we have our wellness coach, Darren Fink. He's going to be chatting with me, and we're going to be talking about how to boost your immune system. So with what's been going on with the virus and being cooped up inside and fear and all these things, what can we do? What's within our control? What are the things that we ought to be focused on? And so the fundamentals, that's what I've asked Darren to do, is chat with me about the fundamentals of health and building a strong immune system. So Darren, I'm glad you're with us today, and I'm going to pick your brain. Is that good?
That's great. Thanks for having me, Tommy. It's a timely moment for us to be able to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, and you've been with us before. We've done a series a few years ago, and that was very, very helpful and impactful to many of our members. Today, I want to jump right into what we can do to augment our immune systems. You know, there's so many things that are outside of our control or that we can't manipulate or make happen instantly, but there are a lot of things that we can do to build a more robust immune system so that we can return to our normal lives, not only healthy, but with the confidence that we've done what needs to be done to protect our fortress, so to speak.
Yeah, and today, we're speaking. This is about 3 months almost since this whole thing started. And the main thing that we're learning throughout this entire journey is that the information is constant. The target is moving. The data changes. 1 minute it's do this, the next minute it's do that. And what I really wanted to focus on with you today were the unchangeable aspects of health.
Yeah, I like that.
And the fact that, this is what I was thinking when this whole thing came forward, because you and I have known each other long enough, that who we were going into this pandemic really impacts our susceptibility to what's happening in our ability. And as this information has come out, we're learning, oh wow, if I really do invest in my health, my susceptibility to this is far less. So really focusing on what it means to be a healthy, practicing wellness as a person now, and then also the things that we can do on top of that to hone in on our body's ability to push back against things like viruses and bacteria, and saying, look, what can I do right now to make myself as great of a candidate to do well if I come in contact with this infection that's out there?
Yeah, and that's great because I also think that that maybe we are all going to get past this. This is going to be over or done with or trivial at some point.
One way or another.
But there's going to be something else in the future.
Correct.
And if it's not a virus or a epidemic or a pandemic, it's going to be a personal challenge or health crisis. So
That's right.
It's really like we want to build the fortress before the storm.
That's right.
And I think a lot of people, in fact, Charlie Finch, one of our coaches, put it this way. He goes, we're all trying to, most people anyway, are trying to avoid being exposed to the virus. But what is happening is a lot of people are being exposed by the virus. Right. In other words, it's exposing some deficiencies in how they run their life, maybe in their immune system, maybe in their character.
Right. Because
a lot of people have defaulted to their previous level of habits. And if that is good, then that's good news. But a lot of people went downhill during this.
Another way of saying it too is this is the time to be proactive, not reactive. This isn't the time to say, by being proactive, we put ourselves in a position to where we've aligned all these categories that we're going to talk about today, where we know we've fortified ourselves and we've done our due diligence, and the rest is in God's hands, as we say.
That's right.
The rest is in God's hands. Hey, I've done everything. I don't know what's going on in every micro sense of what's happening in my body, but I've prepared myself so that I'm a candidate to do well.
Yeah, I was with a doctor, with a orthopedic surgeon with my son a few weeks back, and he had his mask on, and he told me that if it wasn't for the protocol of the practice, that he wouldn't have his mask on. And he said, you know what, my wife has already had COVID, and she got through it fine. And he goes, I've not tested positive. He goes, but you know what? I'm not going to live in fear with it. And this was, an MD talking, and
Sure.
and he said, because the fear is not going to help my immune system.
Right.
And then he added to it from a spiritual standpoint. He didn't know me at all, and he just said, and besides, you know what? I'm going to be smart about it, but I'm not going to walk around in fear. And worst case scenario,
Right.
I go with the Lord,
Right,
and
right.
he actually was applying a time-tested technique, which is to go ahead and make peace with what you might consider
Absolutely.
the scenario that you're trying to avoid, but go ahead and make peace with it, and then everything's going to be better than that, most likely.
Right.
But he was not walking around in fear, which gives him an advantage. So we probably ought to touch on the emotional side as we go through this as well.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's dig right in. What should I do? I love the focus on the fundamentals angle. What should I do? I've weathered this so far, let's say. I'm pretending to be somebody else. I've weathered this so far. We don't know where exactly we are in all of this process and how soon things can get back to normal. I've weathered it so far, had maybe a few scares. What should I do as far as the immune fundamentals to build up not only my immune system, but to build up my confidence that I can go out and be in a crowd and be just okay?
Well, we always start, unsurprisingly, with what you put in your body. Intake is the main category. It's the first category of the 7 or 8 pillars I teach all the time of extraordinary health. And the first pillar is what you put in your body, and also just as much what you don't put in your body. What you put in your body is either nutrient dense and it's fostering and promoting health, or it's kind of neutral, or it's deleterious. It's harmful to your health. So during and these things that I'm saying, Tommy, we need to be doing this totally irrespective of this virus. Like I recommend this, my entire career. I've told people, look, you need to be putting investments in your body all day long, not drawing your health down, withdrawing from your account.
But so it's kind of a yes list, a no list, and
Sort of
yeah,
neutral, like I said.
neutral.
Yeah, doesn't do much. Doesn't kind of pull you one way or the other. It's just kind of like empty calories, things that aren't necessarily toxic, but they're just not adding value.
But if you are super serious and you're trying to achieve optimal,
Sure.
then you would probably cut the neutral too, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's as little of that as possible. I mean, the number one thing I start out by telling everybody is you want to live a nutrient dense lifestyle. And so anyway, starting with that is sort of our gold standard for health. If anybody has with our listeners knows of something called like Whole 30. Whole 30 really focuses on that. Well, it's removing inflammatory foods. Whole 30 really helps you focus on vegetables. You eat some small quantities of fruits.
What is Whole 30?
Whole 30, it came out actually the exact year I don't
It's
remember.
a program.
It's a
That
program,
30 means
it's
a 30-day
book,
program?
It's a program, and it really, a lot of people gravitated towards it because they did a good job of articulating the whys. Here's why you want to stay away from these key foods. Here's why you want to be eating these. It was less gimmicky, less, these fads that come and go. Everybody's doing one thing for a year or two.
Right.
It's more grounded than that. And so I recommend if anybody just goes online and looks up Whole 30, I mean, you can see the whole program right there as far as the foods they don't want you to eat and steering away from dairy and staying away, because it's their key inflammatory foods that they're asking you to stay away from. So one of the good things with nutrient-dense vegetables, lots of greens, we always like the reds as well, the beets, the radishes, the tomatoes, anything with color. Eating that is sort of another good word that is out there right now is pegan, like it's vegan and paleo, meaning primarily plenty of good vegetables with some fruit and then high quality proteins. I do believe in animal proteins. Obviously there's a lot of people out there that disagree with that, but fundamentally the diet that I've seen the greatest amount of people truly thrive under is that pegan, Whole 30, getting the inflammatory inducing foods out of your diet and focusing on nutrient density. Now, one of the ways that I like to do it, that for some people it just sounds like too much work, and it's made such an impact on my health that I'm a believer, and it's helped so many of my clients over the years, is doing your own juicing at home. As far as like a really great deposit in your health, like when you do this, it just 5 minutes ago, we were talking about a deposit versus something neutral. Is having a juicer at home. I like the slow masticating juicers. Omega is a great one. Is that it's literally extracting all of the most valuable chemicals and minerals and vitamins and everything that exists in a plant, and making it so your body can literally absorb it like a sponge, as opposed to sometimes our digestion is just, there's so many problems in there, we're not really breaking down and absorbing what we could. As far as the impact in skin, immunity, hair, energy, just feeling like a healthier person, juicing is just an awesome go-to. That's almost
What
20 years ago I started. Year 2000, I bought my first juicer, and I can swear by it.
So what are the things that you juice?
Well, primarily vegetables, and that's
Okay.
an important question that you ask, because a lot of people, when you say juice, they think of fruit juice.
Right.
They think of putting all their, odds and ends of you name it, a variety of fruits that are loaded with sugar. Now they have a metabolic problem as a result. They're getting way too much fructose, and at the end of the day, no, we want the old expression is juice your vegetables, eat your fruits. So it's primarily greens, all the obvious greens, from parsley to kale, different varieties of lettuce to cucumbers to wheatgrass.
You know what I want to know? I want to know what's your
my recipe.
What's your go-to recipe?
Yeah, I like a lot. So anything I don't say when you ask me doesn't mean I'm not advocating a lot of the things. My go-to easy one is celery, and I'll do 4, 5, 6 stalks of celery. I mean, the good thing about juicing is it's very forgiving depending on how much you want to make of it. I have mason jars, so when you have a slow masticating juicer, what it does is it doesn't break down, it doesn't oxidize the juice as much as, say, the centrifuge ones with the high spinning blade, where more oxygen and heat is exposed to the nutrients. So you could make a mason jar full of it and keep it for 2 or 3 days, and it's not going to have the same degradation of nutrients as the other kind. So I'll make a big mason jar full of stuff, and I'll do kale, celery, sometimes a handful of parsley, half a beet. Now the beet and the carrot will add some sugar to it. But the nutrient
You said a
value-
carrot too?
Yeah, a couple
Okay.
carrots. Yeah, carrots are going to give you some sugar in it. And
What if you're wanting to
some
do low
people
carb
that have
or-
very significant metabolic, diabetic, or obesity type of issues, I probably wouldn't recommend a lot of carrots for that reason. But for the average person, those nutrients and the benefits they're going to feel from doing it outweigh the sugar that you're going to get from it.
Okay,
I'm just
all
a
right.
believer in that. So what we started with, again, kale, celery, beets,
Parsley.
I typically will choose some other form of a lettuce. Sometimes I'll just buy a big pack of romaine and put it in there to add more greens to it. And depending on your taste buds, you can move those around in different dosages and potencies and whatnot. Just don't, as Americans, we're just so conditioned for sugar. Don't put it together as a sugar and that high sugary sweet taste being your greatest focus. And another thing when it comes to juicing that's really important is that don't be discouraged if you start to juice and you feel like this isn't for me, and this is a very common thing that I hear, is people say, it feels like I'm drinking dirt. It feels like I went in a garden and scooped up some dirt and I'm drinking it. And don't miss this. The reason for that is because the mineral density is so strong when you're juicing your own stuff that your taste buds are going to be overwhelmed with that taste of minerals.
That pasty taste of dirt.
Yeah, and I remember when I first started thinking the same thing. I mean, we all started juicing one day and went, whoa, this kind of tastes like I'm almost drinking dirt.
Well, see, I'm happy to drink dirt. If in other
If
words,
it will help, right?
if it will help. I mean, I have kind of been willing to sacrifice my taste buds. In
Sure.
fact, I've been surprised that people will warn me that something tastes really bad, and I'll taste it, and
Yeah.
I'll go, well, that's not that bad. I've had
Yeah,
far
the upside.
I've
If the
had far
upside is high
worse.
enough, who cares?
Yeah.
Right.
So with like the kale, I've read different research on kale and all the nutrients being activated when it's lightly cooked.
Right.
So I actually have some clients that will lightly steam their kale.
Right. Broccoli, you can.
Yeah, and they'll freeze it, and then they will use it in not so much juicing, but they'll use it in a shake.
Yeah.
So do you do anything to these to the celery, kale, parsley, beet, carrot, and
I
romaine?
like that. I haven't tried that because there's such a window where when you steam something, where you're taking away what you could get out of it. It's possible. If you tell me someone's doing it successfully, I think that's great. But for me personally, I have just continued.
You're just putting them in all their raw.
I put them all in raw. I wash them, put them in raw, and I've done very well with it.
All right, so then...
And just to circle back around, there's a long list of greens, of things you can do. So if you don't like the ones that I recommend, you can try others. But the nutrient density of those, and buying them organic, they're grown at a high level, it's going to make a big impact.
Okay, well, that's great. One other thing on the juicing is, do you have that on an empty stomach, or does it matter?
Ideally, I drink it in the morning on an empty stomach. I take supplements. I'll take a handful of supplements and drink my juice and read in the morning. There is not a hard and fast rule, as though, there's plenty of people out there that will give you instances of optimal where I'll say, yeah, that's probably better than taking it with food or anything like that. But I've been in this game for so long. I know if you're doing it with the stuff, you're still getting benefit. You're still doing really well with it. I mean, you can get so to the edge of optimal where now all of a sudden someone isn't doing something because the optimal got in the way.
Right.
Actually doing it.
Right. All right. So that's good. So that's beneficial. What else do we need to be doing?
Okay. Well, I want to talk for 1 second about making sure that, because we did say what you don't do is just as important as what you do. Getting excess sugar and alcohol out of your diet is critical. Sugar, there's 3 things that are really bad for immunity: sugar, and any kind of refined or excessive amount, just sugary coffees, sugary drinks, sugary foods of all kind, alcohol of any kind. I don't care whether it's wine or organic wine, but just making alcohol a regular part of our lifestyle. The studies have shown that both of those cause a dip in immunity. And another one that causes a major dip in immunity is, here we go, ready for it? Anger.
Ooh, good.
There was a study that talked about like 5 minutes of anger versus 5 minutes of laughing, and the prolonged benefits or negative impacts on your immunity between the two of them. Being able to eliminate anger and saying, look, I don't need to go into this world that's fighting a pandemic right now and be 5 steps behind because I've got anger issues at home or anger issues at work, and it's just kind of the place that you live in.
Right.
Reducing that is very, very helpful for your immune system.
Okay, so those are interesting top 3.
Mm-hmm.
So sugar, alcohol, anger. All right, so let's...
I put fried foods in there just to throw in a little consolation prize.
I thought you were going to go with white flour or something.
Yeah, and that fits into the
Not
sugar,
that that's helpful.
Sugar, white flour, any health lecture I do, I sort of lump those all.
Yeah, and just, I know this is very fundamental, but we all need to hear it over and over again. When we talk about sugar, I know what you mean now, but it's always helpful. Some people go, no, I'm not having sugar, I'm just having... a couple of bananas, or I'm not having sugar, I'm just having some whole wheat pasta. Just comment on what sugar is
very
biologically.
A misconception for people is as long as they're eating fruit sugar, there's no problem with sugar. Meanwhile, their insulin is through the roof, and their average blood sugar and A1C is way too high. And at the end of the day, the fructose that's in there is creating and eliciting this response within their system that is not really any different than if they were eating something like a donut.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, you're going to gain weight. You're going to have metabolic issues if you're sitting around eating sugar, and that's why we like things like berries so much, because berries, especially the acai berry, it looks like ACAI, but it's that Portuguese letter, I forget what they called it, that has the little hook at the end of it, but it's pronounced acai. You can get it frozen at Whole Foods and Trader Joe's and whatnot. It has no sugar in it. And then things like blueberries and blackberries and raspberries are low sugar berries.
Yeah, you've gotten me to put the how do you say it, acai?
Acai.
In my shakes, and they're a nice addition, as opposed to the gritty taste you might have.
10 times the oxidants of like blueberries and that.
Yeah.
So that's a great way to do it without adding that sugar. And then staying away from, again, the juices. Remember, juice your vegetables, eat your fruits. Just eating them and having the fiber in there is a profound difference than juicing an apple. Eating an apple versus juicing an apple. Same thing with oranges, everything else. It doesn't mean you can't eat these things. Just don't juice. Don't sit around drinking them in juice, and keep your portions down to typically 1 serving a day. If you want something like an orange or an apple or anything like that, 1 a day is fine. Sitting around eating them all day long is not advantageous.
All right, so let's load up the positive list. What can we do? Is there anything else on the forbidden fruit list before we move on and load everybody up with some affirmative recommendations that they can put into practice?
I mean, look, hopefully not too many people are smoking today. I mean, that's one of the worst things you can do. So we'll make sure we say
What is
that.
smoking?
Yeah. Smoking is a relic of our past that, yes, it still exists, but it's nice to go ahead and remind people. It's probably a bad idea.
Okay, so cut out the smoking. Next.
Yeah, next, exactly. Well, I do want to say, and this is pivoting towards the positive, is hydration. So important. I mean, again, the fundamentals of just waking up every day, having good stuff in your body, and being adequately hydrated. Hydration is the lubrication throughout your whole system. It keeps your lymph moving. It keeps your bowels moving. All these things keep you healthy, and you need to be hydrated for it. And if your only hydrating beverages are coffees throughout the day and an occasional bottle of water or something like that, it's not good enough. And our system, the more stagnant our bodies are, the less healthy and less robust things like our immune system are.
Can I jump in real quick?
Of course.
Because see, this is, I can't pull this together like you can, but I believe that circulation in because it's kind of like a natural law, right?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, if you're not sweating, or you're not going to the bathroom enough,
Yep.
just those two things.
You took that one right out from where I was headed.
All right, well, build on that.
That's where I was headed, was the sweating. I was going to say, when you're drinking high quality water, filtered water, we don't want to be drinking tap water with all the junk that's in there. But when we create this mechanism on the outside of us, and to your point, like the circulation, we are circulating and we're detoxifying and we're drawing out of our bodies the impurities and the things that keep us from being healthy. One of the most important detoxification pathways is your skin. We detoxify through our breath, through our urine, through our stool, and through our skin. And sweating is so critical for that, and just creating that sense of my body is moving and isn't stagnant. And when you get into things like cancer, having a system that isn't stagnant, where your lymph system is moving, and one of the number one reasons why lymph doesn't move is dehydration and emotional stress. So if someone's under stress all the time, everything is just kind of locked up. So hey, like, one of the greatest things you can do is sit in a sauna and just relax and breathe and drink water. What a profound difference.
Yeah, I think that's one of the greatest recommendations you gave me. I don't know, it's about 5 years ago now. I mean, you probably gave the recommendation before then, but I have that sauna, that 3-person sauna in the house, and during this shutdown stuff, I have upped it. So before 2 or 3 times a week, I've been getting 5 or 6 times a week for about 45 minutes. I mean, so I pretty much start my day, not the first thing of the day, but in the first 2 hours, I've had 45 minutes of, it's not just a light sweat.
Right.
I mean, I get a profuse sweat, and I feel like that, I can't prove it, except here I am, I'm still here, that really helped me. I flush myself, and I have the heat resistance, that kind of therapy.
Sure.
But then I just am drenched.
Well, you have an advantage. You have an infrared sauna at your place, and all saunas are good. Make no mistake about it. I mean, you're sweating. That's a great thing. But in an infrared sauna, you're able to plateau a little bit more in there and really just sweat without saying. When you typically go in a radiant sauna, there's really a threshold once you get in there where you go, I got to get out of here. For some people, it's 10 minutes. For some people, it's 20. And you can build up your tolerance to that heat. And I recommend, if you don't have access to an infrared, go ahead and build up your tolerance to it. But should you have the opportunity to do infrared heat, it's very common now. You see them in spas, gyms. They're starting to get more and more of these infrared ones. You can really sit in there and make a profound. I mean, that's the big. And this is one of those, like, hey, don't miss this. Heavy metals are one of the most important things in people's bodies right now that are causing a lot of harm quietly. Lead, mercury, aluminum, cadmium, arsenic. This stuff gets embedded in your lymph system, in your fatty tissue, and creates havoc in your health.
So that 5 days a week
out
for me, sweating profusely,
without
is going to
question.
help. And that's in addition to, my workouts.
And you're getting your nitric oxide levels up, which is great for your circulation.
Okay. Well, and
is
there we're back to circulation again. In other words, natural. So what if somebody's not going to the bathroom, as much as they need to? That's a problem too, right? For the same reason, and the waste is staying in their system longer than it should.
Absolutely. And we can pivot to one of the things I was going to talk about today, which is digestive health. 80% of your immune system is located and interacting with your gut, and having that circulation, things that move through quickly. And we always say when you eat something, it should be out of your system about 16 to 24 hours after you eat it.
Okay.
This whole idea of I go to the bathroom once a day or every other day is just unfathomable to me, because, and this is the thing, we become so accustomed to the norm for us, like hey, my norm is get up in the morning and go to the bathroom. Well, if you've had 3 or 4 meals that day and snacks and everything, think about the sort of the backlog, if you will, of what's actually being consumed versus what's being excreted out of your body.
So what is that doing? I mean, to me, it seems like it would be like keeping your body already has kind of assigned the certain material as not usable or toxic or waste, I guess. So, but if you're keeping waste in your system, that can't possibly be healthy. That's got to produce stress.
Putrefying. As soon as it's been exposed to enzymes and acids and all of its value has been extracted, it's then putrefying and it's producing poison inside your system.
Okay.
So yeah, it's got to go. I mean, you got to go to the bathroom. The bloating, the gas, the stuff where it's just sort of sticking around too long, you just can't thrive that way. So I do recommend a good probiotic. I mean, there's a point where if someone's having issues and you say, look, do the fundamentals, drink plenty of water so your body's hydrated so you can get your stool out. Make sure your fiber if you're eating lots of vegetables, you're going to get a lot of fiber, but you might want to add an extra supplement of fiber, something in the morning to sort of pull through your system and make sure you're cleansing your digestive system with fiber. That's huge. But probiotic is really, really important. And at the end of the day, just paying attention to your digestive system and saying, look, I'm aware, because for me, I pay a great deal of attention in my digestive system, and it oscillates depending on stress levels, travel, all these things impact your ability to have like healthy bowel movements and just keep going. So I just say, look, make sure no matter how much you travel or what you do, make sure you get plenty of rest, drink plenty of water, take a probiotic with you, and don't change your diet because you're on the road. Don't start eating fast food because you're on the road. These are critical elements to just staying healthy.
Yeah, because you've already on the road trip idea, you're on a business trip or whatever you're doing, there's a little extra stress or susceptibility, so that is out of your control.
I'll make a bet
right?
with you. At least 50% of our listeners right now will agree that when they go on the road, one of the first things they notice is they don't go to the bathroom like they do when they're at home. Thousands of clients later, I've heard that so many times. It's just, when I travel, I don't go to the bathroom, is what they say.
So the remedy for that is?
Hydration, recognizing that there's several reasons, so I have to give you a couple answers to that. There's several reasons. One is that when we travel subconsciously, when we're not in the safety of our own home, our system kind of locks up a little bit. Like one example of that is if you've ever been like in a busy day and then you come home and as soon as you sit on the couch, you go, I need to go to the bathroom. As soon as you relax and you just feel the sense of you've left that sympathetic dominance, meaning the part of your neurological system that's going all day long.
I don't know where this is going here.
It's true, though. It is true. There's a
you just need your own throne.
Yeah, you need your own throne, or you just need the peace of your own place. And there's a psychological element. There just is. There's no doubt about it. So it's finding just kind of breathing when you're traveling and saying, look, you've got to be conscientious of the fact that your stress impacts and locks you up, so to speak. And then the next one is obviously hydration, drinking plenty of water. Sometimes people react differently when they travel to the different water. It's like you're drinking different municipalities wherever you go, and the pH and how it's all constructed is different from place to place. That is part of the game. So if
is that a big part of the game?
It's a part of it.
Okay.
It is. It's strange. It's because I've actually talked to several people about this and say, you're right. As soon as I change bottled waters, I do this. Sometimes I get a little constipated afterwards. The switch, and it's some people more than others. Some people it doesn't affect at all, but I'd be remiss not to mention it. And so I think stress, the change of hydration and the type of hydration when you're there, and the change of diet. Those are the basic fundamentals. You change how you feel, you change what you drink, you change what you eat, your body locks up.
So
Pretty straightforward.
yes, but I love the overarching principle, which is circulation, movement, no pun intended,
Right.
flowing, keeping things from being stagnant. Things in nature that go stagnant,
Right.
they start to smell.
Right.
They're dirty. They're
Yeah.
actually usually ugly to look at.
Yeah.
So you just think circulation is the overriding principle.
Correct.
So, do you want to keep moving with the affirmative list? Or one thing before we're done, I wanted to kind of tell you, I thought this might be interesting for people, maybe, maybe not, but kind of what I've been doing during the shutdown, and see if you think, comment on each of those pieces. But I wanted to make sure we got through your affirmative list of the things that we can do
Yeah,
first.
no, there's some really important things for our listeners here to focus on, and one of them, and again, when you listen to me talk, you're going to hear a lot of stuff over and over again, but that doesn't diminish the importance of it, and that is sleep. Sleep is incredibly important for your immune system. The body literally resets itself when you go to bed at night. If you're not sleeping well, some of the worst health episodes people have ever been through, where they got sick, and or even something as bad as cancer, stress and poor sleep is the underlying factor as to why someone got sick. So during a time like this, prioritizing sleep, getting to bed the earlier the better, making sure that you sleep in a cool, dry environment. When I say dry, I don't mean too dry, then it's an opposite problem, but when it's too musty or humid, people get really sinusy and stuff like that, especially during the summer. But sleep, you just can't step over sleep as a critical fundamental to a healthy immune system. So that's right up there at the top. Healthy intake, healthy sleep, and then the other is another obvious one, which is exercise. You just spent a few minutes talking about movement. Well, one of the big parts of movement is the body is moving and the organs detoxify better because of oxygenation and exercise. So at the end of the day, you have to prioritize those three things: healthy sleep, healthy intake, healthy exercise. And exercise, and I don't mean to be either negative or critical when I say this, a lot of people put way too much emphasis on walking their dog as their exercise. And this is just experience talking. I live a very active lifestyle, is what I'm used to hearing all the time.
Right.
That's not good enough. That's
got to be a bonus.
Yeah,
that's got to be
it's
a bonus, because I
exactly.
know that some people get really over appreciative of themselves and the number of steps that they've accumulated.
Right.
And while that's certainly good,
it has
better
value.
than fewer steps, it is not a substitute biologically or I believe psychologically for what you get from having a moment in your calendar during the day where that is set aside for you to push yourself, to sweat, to work the muscles, the heart, and so on.
The bar is lean muscle mass and fitness. That's the bar. Okay, lean muscle mass. That means you look at your body and you have lean muscle mass, and it doesn't mean for women that you're big. I mean, a woman can be slender and have lean muscle mass on her body. It looks beautiful. It's just one of those things that sometimes women get a little intimidated and they think we're telling them to go become a bodybuilder or something, like they're going to look like a man, they're going to lose their femininity. Absolutely not.
Very difficult for that to even happen.
And it is. It requires, yes, exactly. And that's actually a whole other conversation we can have. But that, and then fitness, meaning your heart's ability to adapt to more rigorous demands, and that's why I like a good balance of cardiovascular, high intensity interval training, and using weights as a means of sort of balancing yourself out. There's benefit to both of them, and making sure that you're exercising is critical.
So one other thing, and then I want to run through my list and have you comment on them and add anything else that is a practical, actionable item. But first I wanted to ask you about adrenal fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
And under what circumstances does that tend to occur? How do you recognize it, and what do you do about it? And does that have any play with your immune system?
It does, because the adrenals, they act as when they're healthy or they're unhealthy, they either control our immune system's reaction to things, they keep us from going autoimmune and overreacting, and they help us also ignite our immune systems.
Okay.
So if you have tired adrenals, you can sometimes have immune system that's just in the cellar, When the immune system is overactive, you have an immune system that doesn't, it can't, it's like a roaring fire. They can't get under control. And the only way you're going to know the difference is if you do an adrenal stress test.
Okay.
And that
But some of the symptoms would be a weakened immune system. I mean, just kind of you're not operating at full capacity.
Absolutely.
And you feel it, but there may not be anything specific or precise.
You wouldn't necessarily know it. You'd have to do some testing.
But you can quantify that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then
secretory IgA, and any good adrenal stress test is going to contain secretory IgA.
Okay, and is that the one, the swab in the mouth?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
so what do you do about it if you have that situation?
Well, each one is, depending on where they are, there's usually 4 stages of adrenal fatigue. Depending on where somebody is determines how you're going to address that. Some of the fundamentals are the adaptogenic herbs. Adaptogenic herbs, what's great about them is if you're low or you're high, they work for both. They work both ways. That's what adaptogenic means. So, Siberian ginseng, rhodiola, luthero, and what is the other one I like a lot? There's typically, they come in a formula. Like if you were to say, I want an adaptogenic blend, maca is another good one. If you don't have the resources, the ability to go get a test done, then take these herbs. They will help you adapt to stress better. That said, then for people who the adrenal system is really low, I do like some of the glandular extracts to boost adrenal function.
Okay, but it's essentially like a stress-induced syndrome.
Correct.
Okay, and so I've had plenty of clients that have brought that up, and sometimes when they run low on sleep and they've gone high on caffeine, and they're going to keep working. In other words,
the bridge, remember you heard me say earlier that stress was a big problem with the immune system? The bridge is the adrenals. The adrenals are the ones, the mechanism, they're feeling the stress and then shutting down the immune system and not prioritizing immunity because the stress is making them feel like you're being chased by a bear all day long. It's hard to fight infections when your body is under fight or flight all the time. So that's where it's actually happening, where emotions are affecting sickness is in that capacity.
And it's pretty common.
Oh,
Yeah, and I don't think this is
almost
addressed.
Expected to a certain degree.
Yeah, I just don't think this is addressed in the traditional MD community. I don't think it's looked for very often. Yeah. Is that fair?
It's fair to say adrenal fatigue is one of those things you look up online. You're going to hear a lot of people say it doesn't exist. All I can say in response to that is, we've looked at it for 20 years, and people get better when we treat their adrenal fatigue.
Well, there you have it.
Yeah.
So it's basically the great test.
We're either all
does it
delusional
work? Does it work? The test.
Absolutely.
You judge it by it work.
Exactly.
Okay, let me wrap up with hitting some, and then you can jump in and go a little different direction if you want. But these are all kind of based on what you've coached me on over the last decade, honestly. Mm-hmm. So these aren't like new things. I didn't make these up.
Sure.
But I thought, okay, we're in the middle of this thing. So you go back to mid-March and kind of the end of March. And I really was doing almost all of these anyway. And that gets back to the whole point of this is the fundamentals.
Right.
And I remember when I used to bring Joe Dillon in all the time, and he would get questions, what do you do if you're sick? And he'd go, same thing.
Right,
what do you do if you're really out of shape?
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Same thing. In other words, he goes, this is a really boring answer.
Right.
You're going to want something fancy.
Right.
So here's what I did anyway. So in addition to the sauna, in addition to my workouts, in addition to trying to get a half hour to an hour more of sleep, even when it meant I would take a nap.
Yeah.
Because, this kind of weird period,
There's
right?
nothing wrong with that.
Hey, you can take a nap. It's the most unrushed period of, I think maybe the only positive thing I can say is it's one of the most unrushed periods of my life.
Right.
Because it was like, hey, I'm going to go to Whole Foods. When? I don't know. Can you do this around the house? Sure. When? It doesn't matter. Sure. It was just so much non-schedule.
Right.
And yet there was a lot of productivity that went on. It's kind of interesting. All right, so here's what I did in addition to the sauna, the exercise, and the extra sleep. I took, and this varied, but I took anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 milligrams of vitamin C. And I took the powdered version usually, if I had that you recommend. I'm going blank on the name of it.
Vitality C.
Yes, and I got that from Amazon.
Yeah, just Google Vitality C.
And I took a scoop of it, and then sometimes I would take 2 scoops, and then there was a day or two where I thought, you know what? I'm not feeling myself. I'm going to add up to it. It never gave me any kind of problems, all right? So then I'm taking Every single day of this whole thing, I've been taking 77,000 IU of vitamin D. Okay, a couple of days, and I have had
70,000.
no, 7,000.
7,000.
Yeah.
Okay, excuse
So
me.
I've had a history of, even when I'm supplementing with vitamin D, still having a blood test that shows you weren't impressed.
Yeah, 25 hydroxy is the test you want to get done, and that's if this is one of those pillars that we talked about where don't miss this. Vitamin D is the most important nutrient you could possibly be aware of in your journey to taking care of yourself and protecting yourself with immunity. So I recommend everybody supplement with vitamin D. Typically, it goes best with K2. The two work as synergists together.
Right.
Taking magnesium, calcium, K2, and vitamin D3 together because it keeps your calcium metabolism as it should be and depositing into the bone versus calcifying in the arteries. So I don't typically like it without all of those together. Again, K2, D3 together. But typically, you need to test your levels several times a year to know how you're responding seasonally and how you have dips and increases based on summertime versus winter. Now, most people, depending on their weight, their size, and the melanin in their skin, they are going to need somewhere between 5 to 10,000 IUs of vitamin D a day.
Which is grossly or significantly more than what is traditionally recommended.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Most people just take what's in a multi, which is like 800 IUs a day.
So I took the 7,000, and then on certain days I would double up just because I felt a little off or something like that. But I also got this from you. You kind of recommended maybe doing this at lunch years ago. But I have a place now at the new house where I can easily get outside. It's kind of a private spot. But I was getting up, and so right as the sun was coming up, I was getting the early morning sun on my face. I'm telling you, even when it was 48 or 50 degrees, I could take my shirt off, and I would be listening to a devotion or something productive with my earbuds, and I'd sit there for about 15 minutes and get the early morning sun on my face and my chest. And I always felt terrific, but I also thought, you know what, I'm absorbing vitamin D while I'm doing that, correct?
You are. It's not easy though. It's one of those things like what you did was very valuable, but it's not easy to keep your vitamin D levels without some form of like exogenous consumption of it, meaning external consumption of it. It's hard.
Well, I was just hoping it was a tag team punch because
good.
I was doing the supplemental, and then I was getting.
And there's intrinsic benefit to the light itself, outside of just vitamin D. Sunlight is healthy for you, so you experience that.
Yes.
I just want to make sure I hone in on how important it is to do.
You probably can't get enough. That's what you're meaning.
Well, you're exactly. You can't get enough. I mean, obviously, you can burn your skin and whatnot, and there's such a thing as too much sunlight. But by and large, this blend of making sure you're like a plant where you're outside, you're not inside getting indoor artificial light all the time. You're going outside. Has psychological benefits to it. I mean, why do you think people in prison, it drives them up the wall because they never get any sunshine all day long? It's irrefutable, the benefits of sunshine. But the takeaway from this part of the conversation is get the test done, supplement with vitamin D, recognize what you need to be taking to keep those levels. I typically say you want to be somewhere between 60 to 70 nanograms as far as your results. Looking at testing for the last almost 20 years, almost everyone who came in the facility where we did vitamin D testing, almost everyone was deficient in vitamin D unless they were supplementing it. I could actually look at their tests and say, how much vitamin D are you taking a day? Because I knew that they were taking it based on the laboratory values. The ones that weren't taking any, they were always low. And that is the correlator. I mean, we looked up some studies recently. An organization called Grassroots Health did a study showing the mortality rates, how much higher mortality rates were with people with low vitamin D versus people that encountered COVID, is what we're talking about here, with high vitamin D. It was 7-fold higher and almost, 12 times higher if it was really, really low, below 20. It was up to 12 times higher mortality rate. That's how critical vitamin D is in protecting.
And that got very little press. I spotted that.
Very little.
I spotted that because I'm on the lookout for it. Because a lot of, even the sunlight, the vitamin D supplementation, certainly the vitamin C supplementation, it was all kind of mocked.
Good news isn't getting any press lately as far as this is concerned.
That's right. All right, so here are the other things I was doing. I was taking probiotics, but I doubled up on my normal consumption. One time I felt sick a few years ago, and I said, hey, what should I do coming off of this? And I had to get on antibiotics, and you were kind of disappointed in me. And so I said, what do I do to rebuild my system? And you said, I want you to take this, and it equated to about 100 billion level of probiotics. So I pretty much maintain that throughout alternating several different brands and strains.
Right.
All right, and so then I've done turmeric, just because that helps me for other reasons. Again, I was doing these things.
Good anti-inflammatory.
Yeah, I might have just upped my consumption a little
is
bit.
a corollary with positive or negative outcomes with COVID. They've shown that people come in with inflammatory. That's why they test those inflammatory parameters. When they come
Like
in.
the inflammation is the real deal killer with that.
So turmeric's going to have its value, and obviously.
But I thought it would have a lot of value to me anyway. Aside from COVID and so forth. Then I take magnesium. I take a little bit in the morning, one kind of magnesium in the morning, and then I take another kind in the evening, and then I take NAC. And NAC, I actually heard that recommended, referred to as a drug that was getting very positive results in treatment of COVID. And the doctor on TV referred to it as a drug called NAC. And he never let on that it was a supplement or that it was easily available to buy, but it does help on lung and bronchial health.
Absolutely.
And so, boom, I began taking that. But honestly, I was taking it a few years ago. And then the last thing is colostrum.
Okay. Yeah,
So-
all of those are great. I mean, the benefits on the lungs with the NAC, N-acetylcysteine is what that stands for. Also, the main reason why people take it is to boost glutathione levels in their body and help with liver detoxification. It's going to, anytime you have anything that improves glutathione levels in your body is going to make you feel better. So I'm a huge advocate of that. What was the other thing you said? It was,
colostrum.
Colostrum's great for immunity, working with the thymus gland. Colostrum is great for that. Elderberry has gotten some bad press lately because people have what they call a cytokine storm as a result of elderberry. I'm a believer in it. I think the people who've had the cytokine storms associated with elderberry are probably people who had a lot of pre-existing conditions. Their health was very suboptimal going into it. So I've always been a believer that the science behind elderberry and its ability to fight infections is
Well, what is a cytokine storm?
Cytokine storm is an inflammatory overreaction. So they're saying if you have some type of compromised immunity or prior health conditions, that if you added elderberry in your response to COVID, that you could create an overreaction of an inflammation to the infection. And that's been sort of thrown around in our circles. And look, there's no way of knowing with absolute certainty everything, but I will say this. It has worked so well for so long for things like flus and viral, hepatitis, other types of, bacterial infections and whatnot, that I'm a believer in it. And I think it's one of those things that if you kept your elderberry in your system right now, you would be more able to fight off a virus. Garlic, the allicin that's in garlic supplements are great. That is one that...
Do you take that daily?
I don't take it daily, but it is to be honest with you, I get asked about supplements all the time. I like a lot of supplements. That doesn't mean I take them all just because I don't want 5 handfuls of supplements every day. So I do try to hone in on, these are the fundamentals I need to be taking right now.
And do you have others in?
But I have garlic if I needed it.
Yeah, you have it on hand, kind of like a toolkit. Okay, boom.
Exactly.
Bring this in.
Exactly.
Okay, well that's excellent. Have we left anything off?
Zinc.
Yes.
I really like zinc. It's called the immunity mineral. 45 milligrams of zinc gluconate is definitely something to consider.
Sublingual or
they both work. I mean, you can take it in a pill form as well. There's 45 milligrams of it. It helps with testosterone levels as well too. I'm a huge believer in zinc. I mean, so you don't want to miss out on zinc.
Okay, that's great. All right. Anything else overall relative to the fundamentals? We've touched on sleep. We've touched on circulation. In saunas, your bowels, sweating, getting a lot of exercise, drinking a lot of water, staying away from anger or making sure that you've got that under control. Alcohol is not your friend. And then the biggest thing that was the first thing you said on the no list was excess sugar.
Correct.
which is really almost any sugar. And if you were really ultra responsible, it's kind of a, blunt in your face question, but if you're really responsible and you're really scared about catching something, you'd want to stop all sugar, because that's not going to help you at all.
Yeah, sugar just has no place in our lifestyle right now. I mean, and it's everybody's favorite food. So nobody likes hearing that, because we love sugar as a country. It is a big part. I mean, there's something, just to give you some hope, monk fruit or lohan is a good sugar substitute. It's not going to affect your insulin levels. It's in a lot of things now. If you go to the grocery store, there's a company called Lakanto that makes...
Lakanto?
Yeah, they make monk fruit, and so far we have not found any really big downside to it of any demonstrable sense. So I do like that.
What is lohan?
Lohan is just the name for monk fruit.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, it's the same. They're used interchangeably.
I thought you were given two different options.
No, lohan and monk fruit are just so people have seen it before they know they're getting the same thing. So definitely that's a way to go about it. And as far as the emotions go, I mean, I think this might be a good thing to close with, is that we have all been tested like we've never been tested before as human beings, in the form of, we're all at home now. It's tested our relationships with our family. It's tested, what we rely on just for our peace and our sanity. It's a really uncharted place that we've all gone through together right now, and it's exposing, our crutches. It's exposing our crutches. It's exposing the value of our relationships with those that we love, or the problems maybe that exist in there. And we're not going to work every day with a boss that's toxic and coworkers that are toxic, or the opposite, it's coworkers that we love, and it's really just bringing to light all those elements. And so from an emotional, spiritual health standpoint, I encourage our listeners to take a look at where they're at right now and recognize, what value has that played in their life, and exposing where they could improve. Have they noticed, oh my gosh, my stress levels are so much better since this started because I'm not at work and it's not so chaotic and everything? Or am I worse because now I'm looking at social media all day long and news stories that stir me up with anxiety? If you want to be healthy as a person, not just physically, but as a whole person, you have got to take inventory of your relationships, your consumption during the day, and recognizing it has an impact that affects you body, soul, and spirit. That what you're consuming and the value of your relationships and the value of your spiritual health is profoundly important right now. And we're just in a window where we get to examine that with a closer lens, because we just don't have all the crutches we used to have.
Yeah, that's an exceptional point and a great way to end. I've been challenging clients with this question, which is, what is it that God wants you to learn or know or change as a result of this experience? Because one way or another, there's a message in this experience for all of us, and we don't want to get to the end of this and have wasted that opportunity.
Where's the gift in it?
Yeah. So thanks, Darren, for taking the time to do this. I appreciate it. And if you've got comments on this episode, you know where to find us. Thanks very much.